Welcome to True and Unpolished. Through this podcast, our intention is to uplift, amuse, and inspire you to create more of a life you'll love. Let's get authentic, everybody. Last year, Mary and I did 2 episodes on finding magic. The first one was Finding Magic Again, and then the second one was Magic Take 2. And as that title hints, it is a continuation of a story that we told in the first Finding Magic episode. So what we did is went back and edited those 2 episodes and put them together in such a way that the story, you're able to get the full story with one episode. And I'll tell you, full disclosure, everybody, I am the one who is editing these episodes. And so I went back and listened in order to give you what you're about to hear. And I think you're gonna find the magic. I didn't mean to say that so silly, but I really do. I think there's magic in this episode. Lots of wonderful reminders. I certainly was reminded. And the other part was I was remembering where I was last year at this time, where I was mentally, what was going on emotionally, what was going on, socially in my life. And oh my, what a difference a year makes. What a difference a year makes. I think that I've had those years that have felt like not much change has really happened. I could, in theory, listen to me talk during the year before and think, I'm kind of in the same spot. And I heard a quote, and I don't know who said it. So sorry, everybody, but you can look it up. And the quote was, there are years that answer, and there are years that ask questions. And I think for me, this last year was a year of questions, and I look forward to the answers. Okay, so let's talk magic, everybody. Take a listen. We are here today to talk about the magic of Christmas. Actually, we're here to talk about the magic of life, but this time gave Mary some thoughts, and she shared a story with me yesterday, and I think it's really purposeful for us to talk about today. So Mary, why don't you start us off with a story about the magic of Christmas?
So I've been, as I've been wandering in my neighborhood, going on walks and that sort of thing, I noticed that people started decorating earlier this year, and I've seen people posting on Facebook all the way back. I mean, people started decorating in like October before Halloween. And so I was thinking about this whole idea of the magic of Christmas and this time when my daughter was about 3 years old. So she has no memory of this thing that I did, but I was, when she was about 3 years old, I was tucking her into bed, and I told her that Santa Claus wasn't a real person, and it Santa Claus was just made up.
Right.
And so and then later, she didn't really care. I mean, it wasn't a big deal for her. So later, when I told her dad that what I had done, he simply said, "Don't ever do that again."
Right.
So I said, okay. And
so why did you tell her that?
Well, I told her because I wanted her to know, I wanted to teach her that, one, I wanted to be honest with her. Actually, right. That's why I told her. I wanted to be honest with her. And I didn't want to have to deal with the, trauma of finding out that Santa wasn't real. I thought I would just go ahead and tell her. But also because at that time, I've said before that she was my teacher, and there was so much magic having this young child in my life, and I was really kind of awakening to that magic at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was really being intentional about honoring the magic of life and
Right.
not sort of
Relegating it to one specific thing or one specific
right one
time.
specific moment
Right. Right.
in her experience, or trying to kind of hold on to um magic through that one thing, like
Right.
the
Right.
magic of Christmas.
Well, I have to say that I relate, the part of your story that I really relate to is the truth part. I had the same thing and still have the same thoughts about my sons are 10 and 8, and they still believe in Santa Claus. And actually it's really region specific, I think. Where we live, it feels like the kids like believe in Santa. I mean, I don't even know when it stops. Like every year I keep thinking maybe this is when. And funny story, I remember I was listening to the kids. This was like last year. They were upstairs playing in their room, and I heard my son say to the neighbor, or the neighbor said, "Well, I want this thing, but it's really too expensive. It costs blah blah blah." And Kai said, "Don't worry, just ask for it for Christmas. Then no one has to pay for it." It's like, yeah, this myth we're perpetuating is really not good for my pocketbook. So I relate to the being honest thing. Everybody that knows me knows that I am. I don't know what is this about me. Like I feel like, is it the cerebral part? Is it an autistic part? I don't know. I just feel like we should all just be, speaking the truth. That's just the way that I am. And sometimes I'm a little bit too blunt, I think. I had that thought too. It's like I'm lying to my children. And so I talked to their dad about that. And what I have come to see is that, you know, for me, the right balance is both and. Like they have such magic and wonder in this time. But the truth is, my kids have magic and wonder all the time. Like I do, foster that within them. We do look for the magic every day. We do talk about the sixth sense and synchronicities and oh my gosh, and kind of stare and wonder at things. And so, you know, I think that it's fine for them to have this. And, the people decorating before Halloween. And so, first of all, another region thing about here is that people here decorate right after Halloween, like November 1st, because people here decorate like I've seen this to my sons yesterday. Like they have spring decorations and fall decorations and Christmas decorations. And like there's outdoor decorations for like every season. Like I told y'all, there's mom season. And, there's mom season happens right before Halloween decorations. There's like an order to all this. Anyway, I did not notice the decorations going up early because they always go up early on November 1st. And part of that is because the ground freezes here. That's what everybody says. The ground freezes. And so you want to get your stuff into the ground. But I see what you were talking about, Mary, with people decorating in October. I think what's happening is like that's an expression of hope.
So I guess my question is, how do we do that? So it's not to give up the magic of Christmas or stop creating magic of Christmas. I have a friend who has talked about the anxiety about, and I know a lot of people feel this way, but the anxiety of making sure all of the children have a fair number of gifts, and making sure that no one is feeling slighted. And so there are all these things that we do to kind of hold on to the magic, and in that we're
killing it.
In the holding on to the magic, we suffocate and take all of the life out of the experience. And so how do we shift into a place where the magic is honoring the moment, and whatever moment that is, instead of chasing it or holding on to it?
Yeah, I totally agree. And I totally relate to that too, because I remember, I don't think it was last year, but well, it's every year. So my big thing that I do to try to hang on to the magic that kills the magic is it's the Santa paper. Like, you have to wrap. And if I cannot wrap the presents from, my husband and I to the kids in the same paper, because if I wrap it in the paper that's from the Santa gifts, then that means they're going to know that there's no Santa. Like I have this thing where like I don't want to be the one to tell them. Like it went from me wanting to tell them the truth to me not wanting to be the one that kills it. And so I have this, oh my gosh, I got to make sure the paper's right.
So the Santa paper, I have never ventured into that. Actually, we never, or I never gave gifts from me to my daughter.
So they were all Santa.
We just did Santa, and so even now she's older and she knows, but so now everything gets put out on Christmas Eve. So I didn't know about the Santa paper being a thing.
Oh, well, I don't know if anybody else has it. I mean, what you just said makes total sense to me. Like, why am I doing this? No, because I was just talking to my neighbor and she's like, oh, this is what they asked for from Santa. So I have to get the Santa list stuff. You know what I mean? Like she was going, I'm not kidding you. She was going every single day to multiple Targets. This is not an exaggeration, for 2 weeks because she was trying to get football cards. Her sons and my sons are obsessed with football cards, right? And so she's like, did you find the football cards? I'm like, I didn't really find the football cards. She's like, but they're on the list from Santa to Santa. I need to do, the football cards. So she's going. And then she called me a few days ago and she's like, I'm here and I found them. The guy came out, I went in, they weren't there. I went to another place in the mall, came back, and the guy was wheeling out the football cards. You just thought she won the lottery. And she said, so I grabbed one of the boxes, but then there's another box. And I said, do you have another one? And he said, no. And then I saw that there was one in his cart. So I took it anyway. And he gave me a dirty look because he didn't want me to take, because there's a football card shortage, y'all. And that is another thing about this year. Oh my gosh, I will go off on Christmas, y'all.
The shortages.
And I had this thought. I'm like, you know what? Still during a pandemic, during this moment, I still can go and buy Christmas presents for my kids. You know what I mean? Like in all honesty, it's unbelievable to me. I mean, it really says kind of that,
where our priorities are.
Yeah. It's not a judgment. I felt lucky. I felt fortunate, but I really felt like it really drew a line between our suffering and the suffering of people in third world nations. You know what I mean? Like we're in this pandemic and it's hard, but it ain't third world, guys. Like I can still go buy a Lego set. I got a Minions Lego set yesterday. What the H is going on here? You know what I'm saying? So it's not about feeling guilty. It's about recognizing that we really are doing well. And I know that there are some people that are really, really suffering, but I feel very fortunate that, I'm not.
Well, I think they're, having gratitude for that is a good, and maybe that's it, is that when we take the time to pause and feel grateful for all of it, the suffering, the pain, the difficulties, then that's when the magic can kind of come.
Yeah. And I have to say that I have felt magic this year shopping, and I've never, well, not never, but it's rare that I've felt magic while shopping. And let me tell you why. It's because
Tell me why.
I know. Wait for it. You ready?
It's because what is
we don't do anything. There is no break and monotony and routine. And so I'm like, oh yay, I'll go to the mall. We have lived here 4 years on January 1st. I had been to the mall one time, I only went into the food court part where they had an indoor play area so the boys could play because it was winter time. I never even walked into the mall. And now, in the past month, I have been 3 times. Like literally.
Wow.
So, but I do it because I get to walk around and I'm like, oh, I'm walking around and there's things to see. I really am in like wonder of it. Like it feels fun. It feels good just to be out. So yeah, I think that there are ways to, so that's what we could do. So if we can observe, like everybody that put out their decorations in October, not just them, all of us, but let's think about that. If we all just started to observe what we're doing with this wonder thing. Because I think what's happened is, I would say if you ask,
hold on, what do you mean by wonder, the
okay,
wonder thing?
okay. So what I mean is, okay, so I remember the moment where Christmas came, and when at some time in my adolescence, and I remember I was sitting in my dad's chair. My dad had a chair that was his chair in our living room, and I was sitting in my dad's chair, and the Christmas tree was there, and I remember going, "What happened? It doesn't feel magical anymore.
Magical.
Like it doesn't feel that way anymore." I remember it. It was lost.
Well, expectation. I mean, what I remember is having when the year that I had expectations.
Oh, expectations. Well,
so sometime in adolescence, I was, and I had expectations, and disappointment that I didn't get what I thought I should get or what I wanted.
Well, but see, this was my moment was before Christmas had happened. So nothing had happened to disappoint me. I was just like, why don't I feel it? Why is it gone? Why is that excitement gone? So all these people that have put up their decorations in October, I would say that there are a bunch of people who, like me, at some time in adolescence, the magic left and they are getting the magic back. And so the key is you're getting the magic back. You're getting the magic back because this is a hard moment with this pandemic going on. So you're reaching for the hope. So now the key is, yes, reach for the magic. And now let's bring it with us. Like we're getting it back because of this contrast of upset and of, pandemic-y. That's not a word. I just made it up. Hashtag tweet. You guys can take that. But we're getting it back because of its opposite.
That's so generous of you.
I'm a giver. I'm a giver.
So we're getting by reaching for it, by shopping earlier or putting up our decorations earlier, or however we choose to do that, we're actually getting it back. Yeah. So I wonder if we could talk about what are some ways that we have magic in our life every day.
Do you want me to tell you what the practice that I just got? And I might have already told y'all this. So if I told you this, it's purposeful that you're hearing it again. Okay, everybody? Okay, so Elizabeth Gilbert, I did this workshop, and Elizabeth Gilbert said that you need to write a letter from your enchantment to you. And it goes like this, and I've done it. Dear Lydia, this is your enchantment. Here is what I want to tell you. I love it when... And then you write, set a timer for 5 minutes and just write. I love it when you blank. I love it when mine said, I love it when you wear hats. And so I got a bunch of hats, and now I've been wearing fun hats because it's wintertime and I can't. And well, I can wear them anytime I want. I'll probably wear them out when it's not wintertime, but I feel like Mary Tyler Moore. I haven't done the twirl and the toss up, but anywho. So, dear Lydia, I'm your enchantment. Here's what I want to tell you. I love it when. And then you read that, and I promise you go do that. Those are your instructions. Whatever is on that enchantment letter. I love it. I love it when you find funny memes and crack yourself up. I love it when. That's your enchantment. That's how you cultivate it, and it's a great.
Yeah, I've tried that too. And I think for me, it's noticing like animals in nature. That's a big one for me. So the hawk is one of my favorites, and the hawk is messenger for spirit. And I see hawks, and also just birds of prey in general. I put them all in the same category. They're all hawks to me, unless I'm up close enough. And so anyway, the hawk symbolizes messenger of spirit. And so if I see an animal, then I'll look it up and and the symbolism, and just take a moment and appreciate that magic that shows up. And oftentimes there's a message that I get from when I see an animal.
Yeah. And so for you, you're enchanted because you are seeing that the universe is talking to you, and that it feels amazing. So what I'll say is your enchantment letter, the enchantment letter, what is wondrous to you, what cultivates the magic in you, will be very individualized. Mary just shared one that was very specific to her. You might have that in common with her, but your list isn't going to be the exact same as my list. And that's why, I could sit here and read you my enchantment letter and you go, well, wearing hats doesn't make me feel wondrous. And that's fine because it's varied. But guess what? Your enchantment wants to talk to you, and the magic is here, and the magic can stay. If we're not feeling the magic, it's not because the magic left, it's because we're not noticing it. All right, write that down, everybody. Hi, everybody. It's Lydia.
And this is Mary.
And today it is story time with Mary and Lydia today on the podcast, everybody. So this is my follow-up story. So I was telling y'all about the Santa paper, right? And here's what happened with the Santa paper, everybody. So remember, we have to have Santa paper because that Santa paper means that it's from Santa, and the paper from their dad and I, it's on a different paper, because if I use the Santa paper or use the same paper, then they would know that there's no Santa. So I'm always doing that, right? And we talked about that and finding the magic again.
And how smart your children are to figure that out.
That's right. Yes, exactly. But they are. I mean, they would know. I would know. When I was a kid, I totally would have known. So anyway.
Would have known?
Oh, yes.
I don't know. Did we talk about whether or not you wrap the presents or not?
Yes. See, because that was your point. Your point was, why are you wrapping the presents? Like, just not wrap them.
More work.
Or have them all be presents from Santa. And what that comes down to is that I want a little bit of credit. I do a lot of freaking work on Christmas, and I want credit. Isn't that terrible? But it's true.
Well, okay. I feel the same way. So so tell us the story.
Okay, so here's the story.
Give us the update.
Here's the update. I know you guys are waiting with bated breath on this. So I found paper this year, y'all, that says from Santa. And I had never seen that paper before. So I got the From Santa paper, and I thought, this is going to save so many of my problems, because I'm always getting confused about which paper was the Santa paper and which paper was our paper. And so this time it was like, no brainer, that's the Santa paper. So I, fast forward, it's Christmas Eve. I've wrapped all of the presents, and, my son walks into the kitchen where I'm doing the dishes, and he said, Mom, what is this? And he hands me a rectangle scrap. Oh, yes, everybody, of the Santa paper. And he said, it says from Santa. And I said, I don't know.
That's so weird.
And I'm in this moment, I'm flashing back to our conversation about lying to your children and all this. And so here he is standing in front of me, and he goes, where could it have come from? And I said, I think Grandma was here earlier. Wasn't she sitting in that seat?
Oh my God.
It was like, and he kind of just looked at me and looked at it. And so he goes away.
Poor Grandma.
I know. I haven't told her. Anyway, so this is what happened. So my husband comes in, and I said, honey, I really think this could be life inviting us to let him figure it out. Obviously I was so super stealth with that thing. I have been super stealth with it all 10 years of his life. Well, not 10, because he didn't know it 1 and 2, but 7 years of the Santa paper.
I'm sure you were stealth when he was.
I know, I probably was. And so so I've said, maybe it's about life inviting us. And he's like, absolutely not. No, we are not letting him figure it out. And I said, okay, wait. Before you make your call, I want you to go and listen to the podcast episode, because Mary and I talked about this. Okay. And
so did he listen?
So, and as an aside, that was the beginning of my husband being our number one fan and listening to every single episode and asking me when they come out, and saying,
that was the first episode he listened to. Okay.
Yeah. That's when it happened. That's when the love affair with True and Unpolished began, everybody. And So he goes back and he listens, right? You know, and he
Right.
would come throughout the day. You know, I would say, have you listened yet? And he's like, no, but I'm telling you, no, we're not letting, that isn't what we're doing here. We're not letting him figure it out. And I said, I just want you to listen to it first. And so he goes back and he listens to the episode. And now it's 6:00 on Christmas Eve, everybody. And he comes up to me and he says, I listened and I think you're right. I think it's life inviting us to let him figure it out. And I looked at him and I said, okay. And he turns around and he walks 4 steps away. And I go, absolutely not. I'm not ready. Never mind. Never mind. Go to Walgreens. I need you to go to Walgreens right now and get paper. And he starts dying laughing, like laughing so loudly it's shaking the walls of our house, because all day long I had been saying,
oh, we need
to do this. And as soon as he said yes, I could not do it. And what I realized is it's not that he's not ready, it's that I'm not ready. Like, I'm not ready. When faced with that prospect, oh yeah. And everybody, Walgreens, on COVID Christmas, on Christmas Eve, has no Christmas wrapping paper. So we wrapped the gifts, re-wrapped everybody, because they were already wrapped all night on Christmas Eve. I remember I talked to you a little bit on Christmas Eve. We were in the process of wrapping, and we wrapped with birthday paper. So I think Santa's very confused. But I will say,
well, it sounds like with the tactics you're taking, they're going to figure it out anyway.
It's like, I don't know. It's Santa's birthday and you're so, I know. I didn't say anything. And they didn't either, because they were too darn excited on Christmas to even think about the paper. And right, they don't care.
And did they figure it out?
No, they did not. No. And I listened to a podcast episode, and then Mary, you need to tell a story, but I'm going to tell you this. I listened to a podcast episode, and it was This American Life. And everybody, that's an amazing podcast. And if you have never listened to it, then you're welcome, because you have like years that you get to listen to. I've listened to like every episode, but they were talking to this man who, he and his wife had done these elaborate like schemes where he would like pay people to dress up as, but it's Kris Kringle. And they made up this elaborate story. Like, there are many Kris Kringles, many Santas that work, and many Rudolphs, and like bring a bone. One of them had the bone, and they're like, this is the original, Rudolph bone. And I use it to call the reindeer. And, and it was kind of like a working man. Anyway, but he goes into this long, long thing. And one of the children, like up to 13 years old, the principal calls them and says, you have to talk to your son.
Principal at my school?
Yes, because he's in junior high in New Jersey or New York City, telling kids that they're crazy. Yes, there is a Santa. He's met him, and there's Kris Kringle, and there's many of them, and da-da-da-da-da. And so this kid, and he was causing a fight, like a physical fist fight. And so the principal's like, y'all have to talk to him. So he eventually finds out, that year when he was like 13 or 14, and they interviewed him, and he said he still has a hard time. He doesn't ever fully trust anybody. Like, it broke his trust so much in his parents. So I can say that all I do is take the cookies away and leave crumbs. That's the law. That's the most elaborate the lie gets.
I think that's obviously an extreme example, but it's also where I was going when I talked about being truthful about it. And so what I wanted to tell you about is the magic, like finding magic. I went out of town for the weekend, and it was literally in the middle of nowhere, and it was a beautiful place, but literally in the middle of nowhere. And there were lots of magical moments, and I think one of them, and it was my intention when I decided to go out of town, was to disconnect and to not have sort of the routine of life staring me in the face. And I think that's something that a lot of people can relate to, because we're not getting out and we're not socializing. But for me, it was kind of disconnecting from social media being one thing,
right,
in particular, but just really disconnecting from my own thoughts.
Yeah.
And having a shift. We went on a hike, and we went to this little town in Tennessee. It's called Rugby, and it was intended to be a utopia. This man from Britain came over and started this utopian town, but they quickly realized that there wasn't much to do as far as living off the land, because the ground wasn't fertile, and so it didn't really take the whole.
So wait, so what you mean is that it was going to be an intentional community, like a commune?
They had this. It was a small town. They had like one of the first libraries ever, and they still have the library. They're like missing, out of I think 7,000 books, they're missing like 6 books.
What is that?
They said 6 volumes, but I wasn't sure if that were literally books or a number of books from 6 different sets or what. But anyway, everything was closed because when we went, it was the day after New Year. So dawn all day, we were exploring this town, and then there's a national park nearby. So we go and on a couple of trails. We had heard or seen in the reviews of the place that we're staying. It's a little sweet little cabin. The owner lived on the property, but kind of a far distance away. But we had seen in the reviews this dog. Like the other guests who had stayed talked about this dog, and the dog's so great and so friendly. We get back, and this is the 3rd day that we're there. We'd been out all day, hadn't seen the dog, but we like pull up, and this little tiny dog with little tiny legs is running as fast as it can across this huge field. It was like slow motion. I mean, it was going as fast as it could.
I wish y'all could see Mary, because when she said the little tiny legs, she opened up her finger, her thumb, and her forefinger about 1/4 of an inch. And so I'm picturing a dog with 1/4 of an inch legs.
Well, they're a little bigger than that, I suppose.
Probably. And is this the dog? This
is the dog from the reviews, and it is. You can see it smiling, and it's going so fast yet so slow at the same time. And that dog being joyful, and imagining that dog greeting every guest.
Yeah.
And we had heard the dog's name is Bones, and it's
that's one of my favorite parts.
We had heard Bones running around the cabin barking, and that happened again the next morning, that she ran around the cabin barking to say hello, like get up and come, like let's hang out or whatever.
Let's hang out.
She eventually got to us, and then she's like squealing with delight and flops over on her back, and is just like rolling around, running under the car to get to the other side so she can get more love on the passenger side.
Yeah.
And so it was just the sweet, joyful experience. That is the kind of magic that I was talking about before, and the word that you've used is enchantment.
Yes. Yeah. And what I'm picturing with the dog is, because I wasn't there and I'm watching you, so I can see that you are enchanted by the dog, and I'm imagining this dog. My question is, if you had been not 5 hours away in the middle of nowhere, same dog, same actions, it's your driveway, would you still was Bones's energy so joyful that you would have felt it there too? Or was part of it in the observation because of where you were in your mind, full of magic in the middle of the woods?
Well, Lydia, that is a great question. And I think it depends on the day and the moment and what been doing.
Yes.
That day was about being kind of open and not having plans and just
or commitments. And see, oh my gosh, this reminds me of the movie Soul. Have you seen it yet?
No, I'm waiting. I want to see it, but I'm waiting for my daughter to get home. So
Yeah. We watched it with the kids and on Saturday. And there's this one part where one of the characters is experiencing sheer enchantment and joy out of everything, like the grate that blows up air. They're walking down New York City and the grate that blows up air, they just lay down on it like they're flying, it's like, whee, and it's the recognition that we're all walking over the grate that's blowing up, and most of us are not enchanted by it. So enchantment is a mindset, and there are and sometimes you have to drive 5 hours to get to the middle of nowhere to uncover it again. Sometimes that's necessary. And so I think the message is figuring out, ways that we can be intentional about inviting in our spark, our way of being that allows us to see everything as enchanted and full of magic. Going away, unplugging, watching movies like Soul with your children. You and I, we're worth it. Our life is worth it. We deserve magic and enchantment. And if you need to lie to your children about the existence of a Santa Claus that lives in the North Pole to be enchanted, then we just have to allow you to do that, because I think in parting, we should all say that we get completely why I did it, right?
I think that we can have different opinions. But what I was thinking about when you were talking is, and this is something I was focused on earlier, and when I was leading a class today, is, I found myself making a lot of judgments, like, why did I pick this place? Like, look what is happening in the neighborhoods as we're passing through.
Like on your way there,
yeah,
you were looking around going, this does not look like it's going to be a fun trip. Like
right,
leading up to it. Okay.
So the judgments. And so what happened whenever you were like, no, I can't do it, is what preceded that was a judgment.
Yeah.
And that triggered an emotion. And that's how it works. And so whatever it takes to let go of judgment is really the key that we're looking for to find the enchantment. And willing to be vulnerable and non-judgmental is how we get to that. And it took me all day and, several days to get to that place where I was just like blown away by this dog.
Right. Yeah.
But, I find those moments all the time. If I see a hawk flying, that to me is like, there's an excitement there, just seeing it in the sky.
Well, I can say that is one of the things that I really admire about you. You are an enchanted woman. You've always been enchanted and enchanting. Like, yeah, you're just so Mary, and Mary's so Mary. Okay, that's really deep. We're not going to understand what any of this means, but I think that yes. So we will leave you with the recognition that enchantment is a way of seeing and a way of being, and is not dependent on one's circumstances, outer circumstances necessarily. And when it becomes dependent on that, it's probably time to drive 5 hours to get to the middle of nowhere.
Right. And practice vulnerability and non-judgment.
I was trying to skip over the vulnerability part. I'm teasing.
Yeah, let's not do that.
Let's not do that. Well, everybody, thank you for listening. And I'll just say that we are on Pandora now, which is very exciting. And thank all of you for listening. And we are on Google Podcasts and on Spotify and all the places where you can get your podcasts. So be sure to subscribe so you won't miss an episode. You have been listening to True and Unpolished, the podcast. Let's see what happens next.